The conditions are less than perfect, but a little help from Mother Nature will go a long way to help kickstart the boating season. So far, it's been slow pretty much everywhere. In Fenland Falls, those at the local marina are busy getting ready. Dan Woolley says once the summer arrives, look out.
We've not had a whole lot of weekends where we've had 2 really good days. When we do, we are busy. People are out, they want to be out there on the water.
This small town of 1,800 depends heavily on the boating season as thousands of boaters who travel along the Trent system stop off for supplies. Mark Barker at the Boathouse restaurant says she's waiting patiently for the season to turn around.
Well, people don't go out in the boats if the weather's not nice, right? I mean, we have all kinds of people that park their boats out here, and they're not going to come and sit on their boat if it's not nice out, right?
And it's the same situation here in Orillia, the Sunshine City, but the lack of sun, again, keeping many boaters away. A quick look to many of these empty transient slips is, well, proof of that. Eric Carmen is like many boaters here today, wondering when the season will arrive.
It's a little disappointing, but it's going to come. It's going to come, yeah, for sure.
And you're looking forward to the season?
Oh, absolutely.
Keeping your fingers crossed?
Yep, we've got to do some boating, as usual.
Now, while Carmen is optimistic about the forecast, others are more hopeful than anything, as of course a lot is riding on this season for many people right across our region. I'm Rob Cooper reporting live along the shores of Lake Couchiching, sending it back to Lance and Jay.
Thanks very much, Rob. We're optimistic here too, even though it is starting to drizzle just a tiny little bit. Unfortunately, the slow start to the nice weather has not been doing much to ease the congestion on the routes into Cottage country. You're looking live tonight at Highway 11. That's just south of Gravenhurst. As you can see, traffic is moving along pretty well, and it will move along even better if an ambitious plan to expand the highway from Barrie all the way to Huntsville goes through. Bruce Harris has more.
It's a pretty typical Friday afternoon on Highway 11 behind me. The traffic is steady, but there are plans in the works to ease the gridlock. With every passing year, Highway 11 is getting busier. Weekends are jammed with cottagers winding their way through bottlenecks like Gasoline Alley.
When it's busy, it's a little slow, especially if it slows down, but it's not too bad. Usually it's you just sort of daydream and you just keep kind of going.
And weekdays are busier too, as more GTA commuters move into subdivisions like this one that are sprouting up in Orillia. So now the Ministry of Transportation is looking at improving Highway 11 north from Barrie to Gravenhurst by either widening it and adding lanes, perhaps building an additional highway north from the 400 junction.
6 lanes definitely would move the traffic a lot better.
Easier access to Gravenhurst is something downtown merchants like Raina Hughes want. She owns Sloan's of Muskoka restaurant.
I think it would be amazing for business, actually. What's going on now is a lot of people don't like to sit in traffic every weekend coming up here. More people would be more likely to come up and visit us if it was easier flowing.
One of the big concerns is what effect construction could have on properties and businesses along Highway 11. John Carrier runs a recycling business on Highway 11. He's worried about his business being swallowed up by an expanded highway.
If we were expropriated, we would have to obey the law. Other than that, I wouldn't want to leave here because I feel this is a good place to do a little bit of business.
Meanwhile, residents like Doris Cresswell, who own homes along Highway 11, worry that they will lose their roadside access from the highway.
Well, it would mean that I'd have to find someplace else to park, so there's no road access. So it would be a problem, yes.
The Ministry of Transportation wants to hear from people that might be affected by the project. They have public information meetings scheduled for Gravenhurst on June 17th and Oro-Medonte on June 18th and 19th between 3 and 9 p.m. Now, obviously, this plan is in the early stages. Getting the public's input is the first step in what could be a long process. Reporting live alongside Highway 11, Bruce Harris. Now it's back to you, Jane.
Thank you, Bruce. And many of those people heading north on Highway 11 tonight are heading to cottages. But is the goal of owning a cottage still realistic, or has it become just a pipe dream? Julia Burke joins us live from Honey Harbor with that story. Julia?
Ever dreamt of owning a waterfront cottage in Muskoka? Laura and Tone Dickey did. Then they made that dream come true.
Still lots of work to do, but it's going to be nice.
It's exciting. We're starting.
The nice thing about this dream is that every time we come here, we feel so relaxed. Any stress or pressure that you might have in your life, which all of us do, I'm sure, it just seems to drain from you.
You're looking at what is about to become a 3,000 square foot summer home for the Dickeys. 22 acres overlooking Longs Lake in the heart of Muskoka. The couple, who drive up here from a town called Smithville 3 hours away, bought the property just last fall.
It's a gem. Just stand there and take a look at the water. It's beautiful.
But for many others, realizing a dream like this one is getting tougher. Local realtors tell us the prices of summer cottage properties in Muskoka have risen by an average of 20% in the last 2 years. One of the reasons, say brokers, is that many sellers are listing their properties for a higher price than they're actually worth. And another, well, it's the old supply and demand theory.
There's only so much lakefront, and at some point we're going to run out.
Bill McGrath heads the local Realtors Association of Muskoka and Haliburton. He says compared to this time last year, the availability of seasonal cottages is definitely lower, but they are out there. From this one along a sandy stretch of Longs Lake.
Well, this cottage is listed at $98,000. It's got 3 bedrooms.
To this waterfront property on Mary Lake, for those who have more disposable income to spare.
And Julia, this is what you can get for $750,000 in Muskoka. This is truly beautiful.
And the key to buying, McGrath says, think remote.
Just a matter of being astute and staying on top of things and jumping when it's available.
Don't plan on hitting it, striking it rich or lucky right off the bat. No, it's a long process. And in the Muskoka area, in this area, it's very rare to find lakefront property.
Now, local realtors tell me that sales of property here in cottage country are actually down this year from last year by about 19%, and they are blaming it on the colder and soggy weather that we've had so far this year, weather that is definitely having an impact on people's buying habits, and weather that we are again experiencing here in Honey Harbor today. Reporting live from Honey Harbor, I'm Julia Burke for VR News, sending it back to the Serendipity.
Thank you, Julia. If you're looking for a cottage, here's a sample of the average prices this week. In East Perry Sound, that average is about $192,000, rising to $279,000 in Haliburton. Huntsville and Gravenhurst are coming in around $400,000. The Lake of Bays area is seeing cottages go for almost $550,000, and in the Bracebridge area, almost $640,000. And topping the price list is the prestigious Muskoka Lakes, where the average price is over $1 million. Lance?
Well, we have a warning tonight for boaters. Watch out for lower than normal water levels. And that problem is compounded by the fact that many boaters will need to completely relearn how to navigate even familiar waters. Roger Klein is live in Georgian Bay with more on that tonight. Roger?
Well, Lance, definitely cool weather has the boating season off to a slow start, but low waters on Georgian Bay might be a better reason to slow down.
You get a funny feeling. You get a funny feeling in your tummy, and that's it there. When you hear that noise, it can be scary.
Boater Harry Ward says you get a sick feeling in your stomach when you hear the sound of your boat's propeller hitting a rock. Harry hit bottom traveling in familiar water, but low water levels on Georgian Bay continue to turn up surprises.
Water going down the way it's been going down, I hit it, and lucky I just damaged my prop, so that's not too bad.
And they get stuck with the mud. Matt Willing, owner of Pier 69 Marina in Washago, says boaters can avoid those nasty surprises by paying close attention to their charts, because every year the water levels continue to fall.
And it's been dropping since 1997, 98, and of course every year it's dropped since then.
Right now, water levels are not the lowest they've ever been, but back in March of this year, they brushed within just 10 centimeters of the lowest level ever recorded on Lake Huron. Since then, the water is slowly beginning to return, and it is expected to reach its seasonal peak later this summer.
It will come up, but nobody knows when, how long, or what the situation is down the road.
Matt says the water has risen a couple of inches this spring, but no one knows when it might be back to the cottage dock. So boaters like fisherman Dan Little say they'll be sticking to the channels and paying close attention to the depth finder everywhere else.
Side finder is great because what you do is you can have it actually pointing out the front so you can see what's coming towards you and you don't wind up on a rock somewhere.
Now joining me live is Colin Clark from the Coast Guard Inshore Rescue Program. Colin, how has low water levels impacted Coast Guard operations so far this season?
Well, already this season we've seen a significant number of grounded vessels. In addition to low water levels playing a contributing factor, lack of boating knowledge has also been a contributing factor. That's why the Canadian Coast Guard is encouraging people to take safe boating programs and get their operator competency card. They can do so by calling 1-800-267-6687 to ensure they have a safe and enjoyable boating season.
Great, thanks very much, Colin. And of course, water levels are fluctuating on a daily basis. You can get continuous updates on Coast Guard Radio. That's Channel 16. I'm Roger Clem, reporting live from Honey Harbor. Now back to the Serendipity in Barrie.
Yeah, and check it before you go out because, boy, you get it wrong, you'll leave a piece of your boat on a rock, especially in Georgian Bay. Stay with us. We'll have more from the waterfront in just a few moments from now.
But first, we're going to go to Sharon Pocius in the VR News Center for a look at the other news of the day. Sharon?
Thank you, Jane. Our region's tourism industry is breathing a collective sigh of relief tonight. The World Health Organization will not issue a second SARS travel advisory for Toronto and our area, at least for the time being. Galit Solomon joins us live from our York Region Bureau in Aurora with that story. Galit?
Well, that's right, Sharon. The World Health Organization does plan on keeping a very close eye on the SARS situation in Toronto. Meanwhile, the fact that a travel advisory was not issued comes as very good news to those people who work in the tourism industry. It is business as usual at Lone Star in Richmond Hill, but today manager Rob Martin was keeping an ear open to find out whether the World Health Organization would issue a second travel advisory. And when he found out an advisory wasn't issued, he was relieved.
I think it helps us get over the first round of SARS, because if they put it again, then everyone's back to square one. We're trying to stop everyone from thinking about SARS.
The WHO considered issuing an advisory after a visitor from North Carolina contracted SARS from a friend in Toronto and then passed it on to a couple of co-workers back home. The WHO promises to keep a close eye on the SARS situation in Toronto, and York Region's Associate Medical Officer of Health welcomes the close scrutiny.
I think it's important for WHO to do their role and to make sure that they monitor the situation globally.
And in other SARS news today, the province announced it will be offering what it is calling isolation payments to those people who lost income as a result of SARS. Those who qualify will have to apply for the program, and they could receive between $500 and $6,000 from the province for the time they were off. The program only applies to those who were off for 5 working days or more. It includes anyone who missed work because they were sick, taking care of a relative who was sick, or under quarantine. But it does not include hospital workers who fall under a previously announced plan. And it will not cover the employees of the Brookside Retirement Residences in Richmond Hill, which was also shut down because of SARS 2 months ago.
We all work and we need the money, so I think they should be compensated, absolutely.
Now, as many as 30,000 Ontario residents were forced into home quarantine since the beginning of the first SARS wave, which began in late April. There is no word yet, though, on how many of those people will actually be eligible for the program. Reporting live from our York Region Bureau in Aurora, I'm Galit Solomon, sending it back to the News Center.
Thanks very much, Galit. A local homeowner took matters into his own hands when a would-be burglar broke into his house. It was the second incident this week in which a homeowner did not take an invasion of his premises lying down. This latest incident happened in an isolated area east of Alliston.
Police are still combing the scene outside this rural home along the 15th line of New Tecumseh. They're looking for a knife that a man allegedly used to threaten an elderly couple when he broke into their home yesterday afternoon in broad daylight. But the would-be robber got more than he bargained for when the male resident fought him off, grabbed a gun, and chased him outside.
2 shots were fired, not at the party, but over the head of the party in attempts to cause him to remain fairly still until the police arrived, at which time the male party fled the scene.
After a 7-hour search using a helicopter and K9 units, police finally located their suspect at this gas station along Highway 89 using a payphone. They were tipped off by a resident who'd been following the suspect.
Niroshan Chandran and his family bought this Petro-Canada a year and a half ago and says he's shocked at the rising amount of crime in the area.
When we moved up here 2 years ago, we were told it's a very peaceful place, quiet, no problems. We weren't too worried, and now we're on the lookout.
Earlier this week, an Orillia man chased a home invader out of his house, wrestled him to the ground, and held him for police. Police say residents in both incidents were lucky they weren't harmed and caution people this type of behavior is not encouraged.
Obviously, there are provisions within the criminal code for you to defend your property, to use reasonable force to do that. Obviously, there are potential legal ramifications should something be excessive. We're not believing that was the case. But the more immediate concern to us, obviously, is human safety.
Now, police arrested a 22-year-old man from Montreal in this latest incident. He's charged with armed robbery, assault with a weapon, forcible entry, and other weapons offenses. And we have a warning tonight